Hello again. Nice to be here with you. Today we're going to be looking at biology, and the topic we're going to be treating is still regulation of the internal environment. Now, probably I would want to say it's part 2 because we have already dealt with an introductory part of this particular topic on regulation of internal environment, where we discussed the definition for homeostasis. We looked at the definition for osmoregulations. We looked at osmoregulations in unicellular organisms. We also mentioned the organs that are actually involved in homeostasis, and we did a detailed description of one of them, which has to do with the kidney. Today we're going to be looking at one other organ of that is actually responsible for osmoregulation or homeostasis in the body to help maintain a fairly constant internal environment. And the one we're going to be looking at today is the liver. We're going to be talking about the liver. Now, the liver is actually very important part, an organ of the body. But before we proceed, I'd like us to take a look at our content for today. We're going to be looking at the structure of the liver. We're going to talk about the functions of the liver, and we're also going to be looking at diseases that affects the functions of the liver and how to remedy these particular situations. Okay, now if you're set, I want us to start with the structure of the liver. Now, the liver is actually a vital organ. I see it as an organ that carries out too much work. If you look at most of the functions of some organs of the body, I think the liver actually carries more or does more work than any organ in the body. It's a tireless machine. Okay, it is an organ that of so much duty that it carries out. Now, the liver is one of the vital organs of the body of a mammal. Now, if you look at the color of the liver, it is dark red in color. The liver is located at the right side of the abdomen, where it overlaps the stomach. It overlaps or covers the stomach. You see it very close to the duodenum, all right? In fact, overlaps the duodenum in some way, all right? Part of the stomach and that of the duodenum. So the liver is actually located in this position at the abdomen, but towards the right side. Now, also attached to the liver is a substance which we call gallbladder. We call it gallbladder. Now, the gall is connected to the duodenum through a short tube which we call a bile duct. We'll explain more on that. And then also the liver secretes a substance which is called bile. Now, that bile, when it is secreted by this liver, it is stored in the gallbladder. Remember, we said that the gallbladder is also attached to the liver as well, connected to the duodenum. All right. So once the liver secretes bile, this bile is temporarily stored in the gallbladder, and then when food passes through the duodenum, the gallbladder releases the bile, which helps to carry out an activity on that food that passes through the duodenum. All right. Now, we are going to be looking at the functions of the liver. Like I told you, the liver carries out a whole function, a whole lot. And we're going to be looking at more than 8 or 9 functions of the liver. Number 1 is regulation of blood sugar. Regulation of blood sugar. Now, there are several cases or several times based on what we eat that the level of sugar in our blood becomes very high. That is when you have a high blood sugar, okay? Now, once that happens, it is actually dangerous, very, very dangerous to your health if your sugar level is very, very high. Now, one of the functions of the liver is to help maintain a balance or regulate it, okay? Now, there is no way we can dispute the fact that most of the food we eat might be high in sugar or might be high in starch, which when the body stores it as glucose, if it is in excess, it is always in excess. But somehow our bodies are built with this machine called the liver to help regulate the amount of blood, or sorry, amount of glucose or sugar in our blood. All right. So the liver regulates excess blood sugar, and it converts it. That's what it does. It converts it from glucose into a form it can store, which is called glycogen. Now, it doesn't do this alone. The liver carries out this function of regulation of blood sugar. It carries out this function of regulation of blood sugar with the help of a hormone produced by the pancreas, which is called insulin. Now, so insulin, with the help of the liver, or in connection with the liver, brings about a conversion of glucose into glycogen, which is stored in the body. Now, this glycogen can be stored and be there for some time. When the body is actually short of blood sugar, the liver converts this glycogen back into glucose so that the body can burn off this glucose in order to release energy, because the purpose for glucose or carbohydrates, or one of the importance of carbohydrate or glucose, is to provide the body with energy to carry out metabolic activities. Okay, so once the blood sugar is then low, the liver converts those excess stored blood sugar, which is glycogen. It now converts it back into glucose so that the body can use it to provide more energy for their metabolic activities. But it does that with the help of another hormone, which is still produced by the pancreas, and this hormone is called the glucagon. So insulin helps in the conversion of glucose to glycogen, while glucagon helps in the conversion of glycogen back into glucose. So please don't forget that. Number two function of the liver is regulation of blood proteins. Remember, we said regulation of internal environment is what we call homeostasis, trying to maintain a balance. So if it becomes too high, there are several organs in the body that helps to bring it down and maintain a balance. Now, number two function of the liver is regulation of blood proteins. Now, the liver breaks down excess amino acids in the blood. Now, please take note. When we're looking at carbohydrates, that's the class of food, let's talk about these three classes of food: carbohydrate, proteins, and fats. Now, between these three, among these three, carbohydrates and fats, excess of carbohydrates and fats can be stored in the body. But excess of amino acids or protein, or amino acid, which is the end product of protein, excess of amino acids cannot be stored in the body. Excess of amino acids cannot be stored in the body. Now, what does the body do? The body looks for a method or a way to remove it from the body, excess of it. Remember, we just finished talking about regulation of blood sugar. So if it is in excess, if glucose is in excess, the liver converts it to glycogen and stores or keeps it. But in the case of amino acid, when it is in excess, the liver does not store it, the liver does not keep it. Rather, the liver breaks it down into what we call urea, which is then removed from the body through excretion or through excretory organs. Now, the process of breaking down amino acids into urea and other harmless substances is what we call, or by the liver, is what we call deamination. Deamination. So deamination is actually the process by which the liver breaks down excess amino acids into urea and other substances or other materials. Okay? So the liver carries out osmoregulation or homeostasis through deamination. Next is regulation of lipids. You can also see another regulation. So the liver also regulates the amount of lipids, that's fats and oils, in the body. So the liver removes lipids from the blood by converting them into glucose and oxidize them to release energy during aerobic respiration. So you see, when excess fat is being stored in the body, the liver can remove those excess fats by converting these lipids or fats and oils, converting them into what? Glucose. Converting them into glucose. Remember, between fats and oils and carbohydrate, it is discovered that fats and oils produce more energy compared to carbohydrates. Okay, so in what I'm trying to say is that fats and oils can be converted to glucose in order to release energy for the body to use. So that is also another way the liver regulates lipids. Okay, then number 4, we have detoxification. So the liver also carries out detoxification. Now, detoxification has to do with neutralizing toxins. Okay, neutralizing toxins or converting toxins into harmless substances. Now, the liver has the ability to convert poisons and toxins, such as drugs, toxins that can come from drugs and alcohol. It can convert them into harmless substances, which are then later removed out from the body. In theory, in my own view, I believe that the first place that is actually affected when a person is actually poisoned is the liver. I didn't say it's this. I said from my own view, based on this explanation, I believe that the first organ that is being affected when a person is actually poisoned is the liver, and that is why we're going to be looking at also alcohol, the intake of alcohol. We're going to be looking at one of the diseases that alcohol causes in the liver. It causes what we call cirrhosis, because these toxins, these poisons, when they get into the body, it is actually the liver that helps to convert them into harmless substances, So the liver is the first point of actually attack when these poisons or toxins gain effect in a person's life. Okay, so take note of it, that the liver carries out detoxification. Another thing again the liver does, number 5 function of the liver, is that it produces what we call bile. Now, in our introduction of the liver, when we're looking at the structure of the liver, we mentioned that the liver produces a substance which is called bile. Now, bile is actually an alkaline substance that helps to carry out a process we call emulsification. Now, what is emulsification? No, emulsification is actually the breaking down of fats into tiny droplets. That is emulsification of fat. It helps in the digestion of fats in the body. Of course, if you should go back to our videos, if you remember, we were talking about digestion process in man. During digestion process in man, digestion of carbohydrate begins in the mouth, digestion of proteins begins in the stomach, digestion of fats and oils or lipids begins at the duodenum. So it is at the duodenum. Apart from the enzymes that are acting on the fats and oil, which is the food, bile also acts on the food and brings about complete digestion of fats and oils, and that's the process of emulsification. But the bile is actually produced by the liver, and once it is produced by the liver, it is stored briefly or temporarily in the gallbladder. So the liver produces bile. Number 6, formation of red blood cells. Now, please take note, in fetus, that is unborn baby, or the child that is about to be delivered, the liver produces the red blood cells. Now, if you ask some persons what produces the red blood cells, it's not in all cases. It is not the bone marrows in all cases. Where bone marrows become the producers of red blood cells is in adults. But in the fetus, it is the liver that produces the red blood cells. Number 7, production of heat. Remember, I told you that the liver is actually a machine that works tirelessly. Now, based on the activities of the liver generates so much heat. It generates so much heat. And this heat can also help the body to maintain body temperature. It can help in the maintenance of body temperature. And then number 8, manufacture of essential proteins. The liver is also responsible for the production of essential proteins like the fibrinogen, the prothrombin, and so on, which play major roles in blood clotting. Okay, blood clotting as in terms of the wounds. All right, and then number 9, breakdown of red blood cells. The liver also in adults are responsible also for breaking down of worn out red blood cells. Now, red blood cells actually have a very short lifespan of 120 days. So getting to that 120 days, most of the red blood cells are worn out. So what does the liver do? The liver helps to break them down into iron compound, because hemoglobin is actually an iron compound. So it breaks it down and then stores this iron in the liver. Okay, so please take note that worn out red blood cells are broken down into iron compounds by the liver. Okay, number 10, you can see that the liver stores iron produced from the breakdown of red blood cells. And then finally, we have reservoir of blood. Now, the liver acts as a reservoir of blood, as it contains so many capillaries. It has so many capillaries, so many blood spaces where large volumes of blood can be found. So the liver is a reservoir of blood. Now, moving ahead, diseases of the liver. Let's take a look at some of the diseases of the liver. Number 1, diabetes mellitus. Now, we have, I think, 2 types of diabetes, if I'm not making a mistake. We have diabetes mellitus and we have diabetes insipidus. Now, let's take a look at what diabetes mellitus is all about. Now, it is a condition that results from the inability of the liver to convert excess glucose to glycogen. Remember, that was the first function we talked about the liver. We said that it regulates blood sugar. Now, when the liver is unable to regulate blood sugar, it means there will be an accumulation of blood sugar. And this accumulation of blood sugar really doesn't help. Another thing again that can bring about diabetes mellitus is the failure of the pancreas to secrete insulin. Remember we said that the insulin is actually a hormone that helps the liver to convert glucose into glycogen. So once the pancreas fails or has a disorder and can no longer produce or secrete or release insulin, the liver is helpless. Also, if the liver is affected, diabetes can also take place. So these are some of the causes of diabetes mellitus. Now, effects. Now, it results in continuous dehydration. So if you've ever started noticing continuous dehydration over and over again, no matter how much water you take, you still get dehydrated easily, please go and check your blood sugar level. Okay? It can also cause blurred vision. So if you're also having blurred vision, you check your sugar level. It can also lead to loss of weight. That is the diabetes mellitus. It can also cause exhaustion or muscle weakness, which can even result to amputation to an extent. Okay? And in some cases, when somebody suffers from diabetes, the wounds fail to heal. Okay? It takes longer time for wounds to heal. In fact, it might even open it up more. Okay? It might even open it up more. And that's very, very bad. It can even lead to amputation or cutting off of that particular part because it will be eating it deep. All right? So it's very bad. Now, remedy. One of the remedy which is actually very expensive and bad is that regular dose of insulin injection will be given intravenously throughout the person's life. So every day you're on drugs, every day you're going for, probably not every day, you can negotiate with your physician and he can prescribe the number of days or times you're supposed to come for a dose of insulin, okay? And it must be done intravenously. Another one again is use of drugs. Use of drugs. Drugs can also help to combat diabetes mellitus. And then finally is to avoid carbohydrate-rich food, to avoid carbohydrate-rich food. Number 2, we have infective hepatitis. Infective hepatitis. Now, infective hepatitis is also an inflammation of the liver. Now, anytime you hear the word inflammation, it actually talks about infection. But in this case, it's not a bacterial infection, but a viral infection. So it is actually caused by viral infection, or it can be caused by toxic substances. So these are the two causes of infective hepatitis. Now, what are the effects? The effects of hepatitis. Number 1, it leads to loss of appetite and general body weakness. It can also cause severe headache and nausea. It can also may lead to yellowing of the eyes and urine. Yellowing of the eyes and urine. Remedy. Now, one of the remedy is use of drugs. The use of drugs. Another remedy is that patients should be placed on special diet. Patients should be placed on special diet. Number 4, after treatment, alcohol should be avoided. Let's look at number 3, gallstone. Now, in terms of gallstone, these are hard objects that are formed in the bile duct, and thus they block the passage of bile. Remember what we talked about bile? We said that the bile is actually responsible for emulsification of fats. Now, emulsification of fats has to do with breaking down of fats into tiny droplets. Now, what is actually causing the blockage? Now, one of the causes of gallstone is precipitation of cholesterol in the gallbladder or bile duct. Precipitation of cholesterol in the gallbladder or bile duct. Now, look at the effects. One of the effects is that it causes a general body weakness. It also causes inability to digest lipids properly. Remember, we just talked about the bile, and we said that the bile is there to bring about digestion of lipids or fats and oils. Okay? So if the bile is actually blocked, it is unable to actually digest lipids properly. The next one is that the blockage can lead to what we call obstructive jaundice, in which the skin becomes yellowish due to the retention of bile pigment. And this bile pigment in the blood is called bilirubin. Now, remedy. How do we remedy this situation? One of the ways to remedy this situation is administration of drugs. So the person should seek the help of a medical practitioner or a doctor that will actually administer drugs. We also have oral feeding on bile acid. Now, bile acid helps to dissolve the stones that are in the gallbladder. And then finally, surgery can be also recommended in order to remove the stones. So these are some of the ways you can remedy the situation on hepatitis, okay? On hepatitis. The next one, number 4, is cancer of the liver. Now, cancer has to do with an uncontrollable growth of the cells of the liver. So when you're talking about cancer, it is a growth, an abnormal growth, okay? So we can also say that it is an abnormal growth of the cells of the liver. Now, what are some of the effects? Number 1, now it leads to general body weakness. Of course, cancer definitely in its critical state definitely leads to death. It also leads to exhaustion and so many other negative symptoms and signs. And then what is the remedy to cancer of the liver? One of the remedies to cancer of the liver is the use of chemotherapy. Now, that's shooting radiations on the skin or the person to kill those growth, to kill the cells that are having those abnormal growth. Now, that is the use of chemotherapy. Another way we can also control or remedy that situation is liver transplant. Liver transplant. And the 4th one has to do with surgery. Okay? Surgery if it is actually detected early enough. So surgery can be recommended. Now, the last thing we're going to be looking at today, which is the disease of the liver, is cirrhosis of the liver. That is liver cirrhosis. Now, liver cirrhosis is actually a condition in which the liver cells are replaced with dead and useless fibrous tissues. They are replaced with dead and useless fibrous tissues. Now, that is what we call liver cirrhosis. Now, what causes liver cirrhosis? Remember, we talked about that the liver helps in detoxification. And I told you that poisons and toxins that are gotten from drugs as well as alcohol. Okay, and I told you that for me, I believe that the first point of negative effect, if a person has been poisoned or if the person has taken excessive alcohol, is actually the liver. The liver will be affected negatively. So one of the causes of cirrhosis of the liver is excessive drinking of alcohol over a long period of time. Taking alcohol over a long period of time. So this is what causes liver cirrhosis. Now, effects of liver cirrhosis. We have general body weakness. General body weakness. We have loss of appetite. And of course, definitely it can lead to death if not salvaged, if it becomes so critical. Now, what is the remedy? The remedy is to avoid alcoholic drinks. Avoid alcoholic drinks. Number 2 is surgery. And then number 3 is transplant. Undergo a kidney transplant. So these are some of the remedies and the ways to solve the problem of cirrhosis of the liver or liver cirrhosis. So this is where we're going to call it a wrap-up in this particular class on regulation of internal environment, looking at the liver. All right. So we're going to see in our next video where we'll talk more on organs that actually carry out the process of homeostasis. Bye for now.